Hey there, Trailblazers! So, let's talk about something we all secretly judge in RPGs, character types. Be honest, when you see the physical type in a game like Honkai Star Rail, it doesn't exactly scream exciting, does it? I mean, who wouldn't want to blow stuff up with fire or zap enemies into oblivion with lightning? But here's the twist. Physical characters in Honkai Star Rail aren't just the underdogs. In fact, they've got some serious muscle, pun totally intended, when it comes to gameplay. Unlike other games where elemental reactions steal the show, Honkai Star Rail keeps it simple but strategic. Types here are all about shredding that enemy toughness bar and exposing their weaknesses, making every single type essential to the fight. And physical characters? Oh, they do more than pull their weight. They're the rock-solid bruisers who keep the team on track. So, buckle up as we break down why physical characters deserve a spot in your lineup and why you might just start appreciating the art of a well-placed smack. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. Let's talk about Suan, one of the fan-favorite 4-star characters in Honkai Star Rail, especially if you've been vibing with the hunt path. Now, if you've ever seen her chicken summoning ultimate, you know that it's just chef's kiss. It's hilarious and satisfying to watch. But here's the deal. When it comes to the meta, Suan struggles to keep up. Her kit is heavily focused on single target damage, which is awesome for knocking down one enemy but kind of falls flat in endgame content where you're facing waves of tough mobs or beefy multi-phase bosses. Now, don't get me wrong, Suan isn't useless by any stretch. Her ability to deal high toughness damage makes her a great option for breaking shields, especially against enemies weak to physical. Plus, if you invest in her Eidolons, she becomes much more exciting. Extra turns, extra damage, she basically powers herself up like she's training for a big anime battle. Early game, she's your go-to for clapping enemies left and right. Late game though, she starts struggling to keep up with the power creep. It's like bringing a sparrow to a hawk fight. That said, Suan is still a fun pick, especially if you're looking to enjoy the journey rather than obsess over optimal builds. She's perfect for new players who need a dependable DPS early on, but as you get into tougher challenges, you'll probably start eyeing other characters. So, if you love her personality, or just can't resist summoning that chicken, keep her around. She might not be a meta queen, but she's a star in her own right. Let's talk about the physical Trailblazer in Honkai Star Rail. Your first unit and, honestly, your introduction to smashing enemies in style. If you're just starting out, this unit feels like a trusty sidekick, delivering solid single-target hits with their basic attack and throwing out some satisfying AoE damage with their skill. Oh, and let's not forget their ultimate. When you use it, their damage output cranks up a notch, making it a real game changer for those early battles. It's simple, straightforward, and effective. Now, here's the thing. The physical Trailblazer shines in the early game when enemies are squishy and strategies are still forming in your head. But as you level up and start facing tougher bosses and tankier mobs, their damage starts to feel, let's say, underwhelming. You'll notice that their contributions drop off a bit compared to more specialized units you unlock later. That said, you don't need to stress about wasting resources on them. The great thing about Trailblazers is that their level and investments carry over to every variation of them, so whatever you spend now will still pay off down the line. In short, the physical Trailblazer is a solid starting option, especially while you're learning the ropes of combat. They're not flashy or overpowered, but they're reliable and versatile enough to help you through the early hurdles. Use them to get a feel for the game, build your confidence, and when the time comes, transition into other characters or Trailblazer types that suit your playstyle better. They're like a stepping stone, not the star of the show, but a key player in setting the stage. Hana is one of those characters in Honkai Star Rail who had their moment in the spotlight but faded away as the meta evolved. When she first dropped, everyone was talking about her because she solved a problem most of us didn't even know we had: skill point management. If you've ever played with a character like Dan Hang and Bibbit or Looney, you know how quickly skill points vanish. Hana's skill was a game changer. Apply an effect on the enemy and boom, 2 skill points come back over time. It was like magic. She wasn't just helpful. She made battles smoother and let you focus on bigger decisions instead of scrambling for points. But here's the thing, her popularity didn't last forever. Sure, her animations were stunning and she fit seamlessly into a lot of teams, but as players got better at managing their skill points, her niche became less essential. And then, Sparkle happened. Sparkle came in and stole the show with stronger support abilities, leaving Hana feeling a bit like the opening act you politely clap for. Don't get me wrong, Hana is still a solid 4-star support, but let's be real, she's not turning any heads in the current meta. That said, if you're building an all-physical team, Hana can still pull her weight. Pair her with physical DPS characters, and she'll keep the skill points flowing while the heavy hitters do their thing. She may not be the flashiest choice, but sometimes a reliable pick is exactly what you need. So, if you've got her sitting in your roster and haven't given her a shot recently, it might be time to dust her off and see what she can do. Let's talk about Natasha, one of the most reliable and beginner-friendly characters in Honkai Star Rail. If you've just started the game, you'll quickly realize why she's such a popular pick. First off, she's totally free. That's right, you get her just for playing through the early parts of the game. And since healers are a bit rare to come by, Natasha becomes your go-to support right out of the gate. Her healing skills are straightforward but super effective, making her a lifesaver literally in those tough early battles. Natasha's skill is perfect for keeping your squad alive. It delivers an immediate chunk of healing to one character and then adds some follow-up healing during their turn. It's like having a little safety net, especially when the damage starts piling up. And when things really start looking grim, her ultimate steps in to save the day. It heals the entire team at once, which can completely turn the tide of a fight. She may not have the flashiest abilities, but her consistency makes her invaluable for players still finding their footing in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, Natasha isn't the ultimate endgame healer. Once you're climbing the highest levels of the game's content, you'll probably want a more specialized sustainer to handle the intense battles. But for the vast majority of situations, Natasha is more than enough. She's dependable, easy to build, and a solid pick for most of your journey. If you've been sleeping on her, it's time to give Natasha another look. She might surprise you with just how much she can carry your team. Alright, let's talk about Luca, the Nihility Path boxer from Honkai Star Rail. If you're into punching things and watching your enemies crumble from physical weakness, this guy is your dream teammate. Luca is the boxing champion of Jarilo 6, and he fights like he's got something to prove. His kit is all about breaking enemy weaknesses and making them bleed, literally. Even if they don't have a physical weakness, he'll still make them regret stepping into the ring. What makes Luca stand out is how easily he applies the bleed effect. But here's the kicker. His buffed basic attack doesn't just deal damage, it triggers all the bleed instances at once. Imagine stacking a ton of bleed on a boss and then watching it all pop off like a fireworks show. That's Luca for you. He's basically a walking debuff machine, and with the right build, you can turn him into a nightmare for anything in his path. Now, if you want to get the most out of Luca, you'll want to stack Break Effect. Why? Because that Break DOT he applies when smashing through an enemy's toughness bar becomes even more devastating. Pair that with his enhanced basic attacks, and you've got yourself a relentless damage dealer who never lets up. He's perfect for taking down beefy enemies and bosses, making him a solid choice for your team if you love seeing enemies melt under the weight of their own weaknesses. Clara. Or should I say Svarog, since he's doing most of the heavy lifting in Honkai Star Rail. If you're looking for a physical DPS that really brings the heat, Clara is a fantastic choice. Her counterattacks are the stuff of legends. Every time an enemy dares to target her, she fights back hard. And the best part? Once you pop her ultimate, those counterattacks start triggering even when her teammates are hit. It's a brilliant mechanic that makes her a powerhouse, but it does take some setup to really shine. Now, here's the catch. Clara doesn't come with a built-in taunt. Sure, she increases the chances of enemies targeting her, which is helpful, but it's not guaranteed. That's where characters like March 7th and Lynx come in. They can force enemies to look Clara's way and let her unleash that counterattack madness. But hey, there's still some RNG involved. Sometimes enemies will stubbornly ignore her despite your best efforts, and that can feel a little frustrating. Still, when the stars align, Clara absolutely dominates. When it comes to physical characters in Honkai Star Rail, Clara is undeniably one of the most impactful. While she might not be as straightforward as some other damage dealers, her kit offers a unique playstyle that's rewarding when it works. Pair her with the right supports, and you've got a team that can tank hits and dish out damage like nobody's business. Just be ready to roll with the punches, literally, and embrace the occasional chaos. She's not just a DPS, she's a spectacle. Alright, let's talk about Arti, one of the more intriguing physical characters in Honkai Star Rail. Now, I know what you're thinking. Erudition? Isn't that like the least popular path in the game? And you're not wrong. Erudition's been kind of sitting in the corner since launch, just chilling. But Arti, he stepped in and gave it a bit of a glow up. His skill hits every enemy on the field, which is already a win, but the real spice in his kit is his ultimate. This bad boy can stack up to 2 charges, one at 90 energy and another at 180. Here's the thing though, if you're playing Argenti, patience is key. His ultimate is like cooking a fine meal. It takes time, but the payoff is worth it. At full stacks, the damage is absolutely bonkers. You can clear out tough enemies or bosses in one satisfying swoop. But if you're just trying to clear out some smaller mobs, you can pop it early with 1 stack. It's versatile, but only if you're managing your timing well. The drawback? He's not the fastest to ramp up that energy, so unless you've got supports like Tingyun or Huohuo keeping him topped off, you might find yourself waiting a little longer than you'd like. So, is Argenti worth it? Honestly, if you've got the right team to back him up, absolutely. He's a solid choice for dealing with waves of enemies, and his ability to scale damage based on ultimate stacks makes him unique. But without proper support, his potential can feel a bit capped. If you're a fan of taking your time to set up for massive plays, Argenti might just be your next favorite unit. Let's talk about Robin, one of the most hyped characters in Honkai Star Rail, and for good reason. She's been stealing the spotlight ever since we first saw her in that Penacony trailer with the whole crew lineup. From her design to her in-game mechanics, Robin is a star in every sense. But here's the kicker, her songs. Yes, her music adds so much personality to the game, creating unforgettable vibes in specific areas and cutscenes. You'll find yourself humming along and thinking, yeah, this is why I love this game. Now, let's dive into her role as a party member. Robin isn't just here to sing, she's a powerhouse when it comes to boosting your team's performance. Her buffs are no joke, tons of DMG, ATK, and crit DMG boosts all packed into her kit. But the real game changer? Her ultimate. This thing gives your entire team an instant turn, letting everyone go wild on the enemy. And while that's happening, Robin's passive kicks in, dealing bonus damage every time one of your characters attacks. If you're running a follow-up attack team, she's like the cherry on top, making every hit sting even more. So what's the verdict on Robin? She's not just a good character, she's a team builder's dream. If you've got a roster full of physical characters or follow-up attackers, Robin fits right in like she's been waiting for this moment. Whether you're a meta chaser or just looking to have some fun with your squad, Robin brings the energy, the damage, and, let's not forget, the vibes. Let's talk about Boothill, one of the most intriguing characters from the hunt path in Honkai Star Rail. You might be scratching your head wondering how a single target-focused unit like him ranks so high among all the physical characters. Well, it all boils down to his unique dual-style combat and how he turns enemy toughness into a non-factor. Boothill doesn't just pick a fight, he commits to it. Once he locks onto an enemy, it's a showdown until their weakness breaks or they're completely out of the picture. That kind of laser focus, it's rare and it's powerful. Now, Boothill isn't just about flashy mechanics, he's packing serious utility. His ability to apply physical weakness to enemies is a game changer, especially when paired with his high toughness DMG. It's like he's built to crack open even the toughest foes. Sure, he's single target, but that doesn't hold him back. In fact, his specialization makes him a nightmare for bosses and other high-priority targets. With Boothill on your team, enemies that rely on toughness as their defense are going to have a very bad day. What's even more impressive is how versatile he is in the current meta. Endgame content? No problem. He thrives as long as there are a few enemies with physical weakness. And let's face it, there usually are. While some physical units struggle to justify their spot in a lineup, Boothill earns his keep every time. If you're building a physical team or just need a reliable carry, don't sleep on this gunslinger. When it comes to the best physical characters in Honkai Star Rail, Yunle definitely makes her mark as one of the top picks. She's an absolute powerhouse, and not just because of her damage output. It's her entire playstyle that really stands out. Yunle's kit revolves around the destruction path, which is all about pulling aggro and forcing enemies to target her. And this is where she shines, because the more they hit her, the more she hits back. It's like she's daring the enemies to come at her, and when they do, they're in for a rude awakening. Yunle's counterattacks are a thing of beauty. Every time an enemy lands a hit on her, she not only retaliates but also damages 2 additional enemies nearby. This means she can really mess up a whole group of foes in a single go. The best part? You can enhance these counterattacks with her ultimate, making those retaliations hit even harder. And if you've got the timing down, you can stack this effect up to 2 times, just like Argenti, leading to some seriously devastating damage. It's a lot of fun to get into a rhythm with her and watch enemies collapse under the weight of their own aggression. If you're looking for a character that can take the heat and dish it right back, Yunle is a fantastic choice. She's a more refined version of Clara in many ways, thanks to her synergy with the Destruction Path's high aggro mechanics. As new 5-star limited characters tend to dominate the meta, Yunle is no exception, cementing her place as one of the best physical characters in Honkai Star Rail. Whether you're taking down bosses or clearing out mobs, Yunle brings both durability and raw damage to your team. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.